we keep track of the joy, we can enjoy. We can be inside joy. To enjoy is to be inside joy. And so if we have that wish to stay perpetually inside joy, then we can use the sadhana, we can use a practice in such a way. So much of what makes the magic is the intentionality underneath it. Shukra. Shukra means brilliant light. Venus, she's the first star, we see in the evening. First bright, beautiful star. And so when Venus is in Pisces, which she is currently at the time of doing this class, and then the idea is then, while Venus is in Pisces, which she's not in that often, get in good attunement with her, which means when Venus is in Pisces, she's exalted. So that means beauty is exalted. That means creativity, art is exalted. That means pleasure is supported. It's not the only thing that's going on, it never is, but that is there and that is available. And then though the idea is through yoga practice, through kriyas, meditation practice, you can get into Venus exalted any time. And so then these brilliant light while Venus is in Pisces, the next couple weeks, do this little brilliant light series. Have a good time, go into bliss. This is what she likes. And then anytime we can go, and it's like making a medicine while the planets are supporting, and then that medicine's available there for thereafter to visit, because sometimes Venus will be struggling from a astrological perspective. But just in case all these ideas are new to you, the astrology it's not necessary, I should say. I was going to say it's not important, but if you make it important, it can be incredibly helpful. But it's at the end of the day, the only thing that's important is if we're feeling happy, and we're feeling good, and we're feeling creative, and we're feeling like ourselves, and that we're doing best we can to keep track of that. And that takes effort. That's why Venus, Shukra, brilliant light. Shukra is also, of course, in Ayurveda, the semen and the egg, the seventh dhatu, the seventh and final dhatu, and thus the reservoir of creative energy, the reservoir of creativity, and thus the reservoir of vitality, Shukra, Venus. But she does best when she's paired with Saturn in some way or another, not paired literally, but Saturn and Venus harmonize well together because Saturn gives good discipline, which then gives Venus good structure, and then she feels a container. Then she feels safe to express herself and to be free. You know how the feminine can be free and even wild when it has that container to do so? So this is that role. So when you also apply good discipline in life, then you can have more fun partying, which is more like Venus. True. But if it's all partying and no discipline, that partying is going to just cause depletion eventually, total depletion. And then you can't party anymore. And the very thing that you were trying to do in the first place, party, destroyed your ability to party. So therefore Venus and Saturn benefit from each other. Yeah, it's called adulting. But always we're in the process of adulting, isn't it? Like now, I'm still trying to become a bit more of an adult. But not some an uptight, rigid way, but in some type of just mature, emotionally mature. And when emotional maturation is one of our things that we love in life, not one of the things that we have to do to be a good person and like moralistic ideas and this type of thing, but rather is that emotional maturation is something that ultimately we find pleasure in. Totally, because it makes life more pleasurable. It makes us happier people, makes us more sensitive and having the ability to listen to each other, especially the ones who are maybe triggering us and provoking us. And it's in our relationships that most often we're triggered and provoked. And so, because we do love relationships, in the big scheme of things, we're social creatures. And we need each other. You don't have only a first house, you have a first and a seventh house. Not only is there an eastern horizon, but there's an eastern and a western horizon. So this is the physics of life and the physics of the psyche. And so, when we apply certain types of discipline and some sort of creating consistency in life, that's the idea behind a sadhana, a regular practice that one has, is it creates a certain consistency in life, and therefore it develops kind of an inner discipline that serves every other thing in life. And when we got that, we're good. Because all the other things are totally, constantly changing in life. But we can create some rituals for ourselves that don't depend on anything else or anyone else. And a practice, a yoga practice, a meditation practice is a type of ritual. And I mean ritual not in any kind of religious sense, but ritualizing activities so that they come from our hearts, numero uno, and numero dos, that they maintain regularity. That's a good combo, coming from the hearts with regularity. Something to kind of arouse the great heart of life inside of your mind and body, even if everything's crumbling, or especially when everything's coming together into real pleasure, 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 because it's hypnotic and intoxicating. And you're like, sure, I'll do it. And then, 9 months later, you have this creature you have to take care of for the next 18 years, You get to take care of course, it's the most beautiful thing ever. There's nothing, any parent would say, there's no greater blessing than a baby, than a child coming into one's life, and yet simultaneously the hardest thing we ever do, period. And, they go together. Bliss and hardship. So not only do we need the sweet medicines and herbs in life, we need the bitters. And they're both equal in importance. With the only sweet, the sweetness starts to become bitter, like now debilitated oneself from excessive sweet, diabetes, or depletion from just chasing pleasure so powerfully for so long. That pleasure totally eludes us at that point. We've exhausted our ability to experience pleasure, because in a certain way we're chasing a mirage, ultimately. That's why Seventh Dalai Lama says, during meditation, keep the mind open like empty space. He says, after meditation, regard the flow of events like a rainbow. Rainbow. Rainbow comes, a rainbow goes. Rainbow's beautiful, but the thing we know about a rainbow, it would be ridiculous to get attached to it, because it's about to disappear. And these are how some of the great pleasures of life are. They're majestic. In a more dualistic ideology, then you would have the rainbow is like a heaven, and like a non-rainbow is like hell, or dark storm clouds is like hell. And so in a dualistic idea, it's like stay away from the sexy, because it'll fall into the pleasure. This is mostly when you put the dudes in charge, because we get insecure and trying to control things. And so therefore trying to control the femininity. And then we all suffer. Yeah, so we've had enough of that. And still dudes are trying to hang on. We're trying to hang on. It's like, look how cool we are. It is. Look how much money we got. We can go all the way to the space. We've already turned, like in Europe and all around the world, or like you go to like Turkey or Greece or India, and you see all the old architecture when the feminine reigns supreme, and everything's so beautiful. Amazing. And then you come in like say in the United States, New York City, everywhere's a bunch of phallic symbols, It is. It's like ding, 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 they're all erect. It is. And that's, when the temple or the church of capitalism, commercialism. I'm not calling it bad. I participate in it to some extent. We all do. It's just we keep everything with wisdom and compassion. As we revolt against things too hard, then you get this ultra polarization that then fights with each other so dramatically. So there's a way to call things out without totally polarizing them. But that's the art of it. Science is kind of understanding it, the art of how do you bring it into life in a reasonable and beautiful way. How do you add beauty to life? And so we could use a little bit, more of that, like beauty in our architecture of, integrating all of like flowers and plant life into how we build our cities and how we live. This is what we need. We need more fruit trees in cities. Things like this. But like, we're going to Mars. Okay. Could we get some neroli flowers, please, down here? While you go to Mars. Leave us some rose blossoms, por favor. It's pretty simple. Like, make things beautiful and nice. Bring some Venus into the things, and everybody benefits. Everybody benefits. Beauty is life, and art is life. It's what makes life wonderful and enjoyable. Enjoy. That's what it is. That's what a sadhana helps us to do, if we want it to do. You can also do the version of a sadhana, a daily practice, where it's just the thing you do and it kind of tightens up the sphincters more, we shouldn't say consistently, perpetual tight sphincters. After the mula bandha is over, relax it, lift the pelvic floor, then relax it, softening. At some point at first in life, we really need discipline in almost a crisis management type way. Say there's addiction to a dangerous substance that's really killing the person. Okay, strict discipline for a period of time until the strict discipline isn't as necessary. Same with us. At first, our minds are such a roller coaster ride. We need a little more often strict discipline for a period of time. But then we can relax it open a little bit and get more into the enjoyment of it. And this is where all the bliss resides, softening into it. So enough discipline to get oneself to do it, but not so much that we are living in too much of an uptight way. And yet, of course, it's a process of baby steps, and it's a dance. It's a dance of overextending and underextending. Everybody ever experienced that? Overextend oneself, underextend oneself, and vice. It's all a dance, as in that same poem, Dalai Lama, 7th Dalai Lama, joy and misery, dances within a dream. So, this is our life. This is our life. And when we keep track of the joy, we can enjoy. We can be inside joy. To enjoy is to be inside joy. And so if we have that wish to stay perpetually inside joy, then we can use the sadhana, we can use a practice in such a way. So much of what makes the magic is the intentionality underneath it. You can do kriyas till Armageddon. Yeah, it may not be very far away. Sorry. I'm just being playful, and yet not. They only will do as much as one's kind of, one can bring in the intentionality around that. And my intentionality today is different than it was 10 years ago, because we always can open up and more. And it's always a new blossoming and a new learning. And what feels like extremely wise at one part in our life will seem not so wise later. And on and on and on and on. But less of a self-loathing and more of a personal exaltation, a personal blossoming that is taking place. And it's like, yeah, everything is actually continuing to get better in that most important way, in the way that we can connect into our own inner joy. And that comes from vitality, purpose, shukra. That's why they put so much emphasis on the sexual energy in yoga practice and in Ayurveda. And then, of course, People even try things like semen retention for the male to try to hold on to as much as the shukra as possible, and therefore thus develop like some sort of extraordinary vitality would be the idea. And sure, yeah, but also careful. Relax. Be balanced and harmony. Don't frustrate yourself too much unless you know what you're doing with a teacher who knows how to work with that type of stuff. And because that's strong energy, and we want to be gentle with the body. Give the body pleasure and enjoyment, but have the discipline to maintain its vitality. How much energy it takes just to generate that type of sexual, really nectar, the egg, the semen, that which creates our babies, our life. It's the seventh dhatu down. So you go rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, maja, shukra. Rasa's plasma, water, rakta's blood, and then muscle, mamsa, then meda, fat tissue, and then asti, bone tissue, and then maja, the nervous tissue, the marrow that fills the bones, the brain tissue that fills the skull bone. That's why the psyche of maja dhatu is fulfillment. That's what fills empty spaces. So your skull bone is like a bowl. Your pelvic bone is like a bowl. You have the lower reservoir here and the upper reservoir here. And the Kundalini yoga is circulating the prana through the two of them into the great heart. And so Shukra is that deep reservoir. But we don't have to be extreme with it, That's why foods like ashwagandha and shatavari and ghee and these types of things in Ayurveda are so revered, because they specifically have affinities to the Shukra Dhatu. And thus building the reservoir that becomes what they call ojas. And ojas is, there's no one thing you can point to that is ojas. Ojas is that which gives the body immunity. That's what gives the luster to the skin. That's what keeps what we say these days nervous system regulated, ojas. That's what keeps the body from aging too quickly. Venus is concerned with staying youthful, with always being beautiful. And that's why she's also connected to Mahamrityunjaya mantra and the quest to become immortal, Shukra. She was given the mantra after it's like in these stories, I meditated for some thousands of years always, thousands of years, living off only breath alone, these types of things. And to get this one mantra. Yeah, true. And then that are so revered. And so anyways, you can never escape death ultimately, but you can always stay beautiful. You can always be beautiful, no matter what age. And that's to get the radiance to come out. Brilliant light, the inner light, through the eyes, through the presence, by being involved in your life's creativity, in making, how do you make oneself beautiful? By helping make life beautiful, And we do that in how we raise our kids, how we work with each other, what we're doing to be creative, to add something, to feel fulfilled. Yeah, all the basic, simple things of life. Okay.
Thanks for watching on YouTube. Best easy way to stay in touch with us. Hit the subscribe button here. You'll see our videos when they come up. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button. It'll help more people see it, help the channel grow. I appreciate you watching.